So guys, as today's discussion, we are talking about the production possibility curve. So when we're looking at production possibility curve, we are looking at a curve which is going to tell us basically um, all the different combinations of two goods a country can make with its limited resources. Uh, there are a couple of things that I've mentioned here, and I want to sort of talk about it. So, when you look at production possibility curve, we also call it production possibility frontier. So, production possibility curve, it is kind of like your first sort of economic model that we are trying to build here. That economic model is the first model that we study in economics, um, that helps us to sort of look at a situation that is out there in the real world. It's a very simplistic model, so you can't really get too much out of it, but it's actually a very logical model to begin with, because it shows us how a country is probably utilizing its resources. Also tells us a lot about, like choices and opportunity costs and many other sort of concepts that we've been introduced to. So it kind of like gives us a good introduction of that. So let's say if there's a very simple economy that makes two goods, which is consumer goods on one side. Okay, so consumer goods on one side and capital goods on the other side. Okay, remember consumer goods and capital goods. We said consumer goods are those goods uh, that a consumer uses for not the production of other goods, but basically the end consumption happens on the consumer's level. The consumer consumes that good and does not use it to produce future goods and services. On the other hand, capital goods are those goods that a consumer or a person or an individual or a firm might be buying it to produce more goods in the future. So let's say an economy has two broad choices of using its resources. Resources, remember, land, labor, capital, enterprise, to make consumer goods or capital goods. And we say uh, typically we have a curve like this. Now, why do we have a curve like this? Why is this shape concave to the origin, as we call it, and not linear? I'm going to talk about that in detail later. But this is something called concave to the origin. This kind of like uh, just kind of like a belly sort of shaped, not a belly for young people, but let's say a belly shaped curve, concave to the origin curve is something like that. So when you like my age, this is how, probably, I don't know. So guys, this is concave to the origin kind of a curve that is there. You could have a linear curve. You could also have a convex to the origin curve, but we'll talk about why I've chosen this in a later part. So let's say an economy, uh, and I want to define basically the curve. So a PPC basically tells us um, combinations of two goods an economy can produce given limited amount of resources and fixed level of technology. So अगर आपको मैं level of technology, if I tell you a level of technology, and if I tell you the limited amount of resources, how much can you produce, or the maximum that you could produce, uh, I mean, I should also write one more thing. Using its resources Then this is an important thing that I missed out. Fully and efficiently. So if an economy uses its resources fully and efficiently, how much can it produce of two goods? And the answer is probably they will be on the PPC. So all points on the PPC, let's call it A, B, C, D, and E. All points on the PPC are those which is telling us that an economy is using its resources fully and efficiently. Guys, do you have any question before we move on?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Who's this? This is
Anish.
Anish. Bolo Anish, yeah.
Sir, isn't fixed level of technology a combination of consumer and capital goods? Because technology can also be consumed by the end user and also be used to create products, which helps, which categorizes as capital goods.
So are you calling technology as a good itself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in economics, we can say technology is productivity of capital goods. That's how we call it. So better technology, for example, can make us produce more output with the same resources. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
So we can say that capital goods, when they become more productive, that means technology is probably improving that thing. So we for us, technology is something that can, from the same resources, can help us produce more, and that's why we call technology as simply something that is productivity of capital goods.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Thank
So guys, if you go back to sort of the notes, we said this, that production possibility curve, it also refers to as PPF. It's the first economic model we'll study. Okay. And we say this, that this is an important definition to look at, is that assumes, some of the assumption is this, that it assumes that you have a fixed amount of resources. Number one, the resources, the given amount of resources, as we said in our definition, and there is a given level of technology, and that you're only producing two goods. So one of the limitations of PPC, if somebody asks you, is what is the limitation of PPC? Your answer will be, the limitation of PPC is simply that it only shows you two goods. It doesn't show you more than two goods. In reality, an economy might be basically having more than two goods. So this is one drawback that you can say of PPC. Another thing is this, that so what exactly is PPC showing us? So this is slightly way of writing what we wrote, that it shows you for every amount of good X, how much can you produce, or maximum amount of good Y that an economy can produce if it utilizes its limited resources using its using the available technology. So इधर हमने क्या किया, हमने कहा कि एक तो available technology is not changing, because sooner we're going to have the technology to change. So the available technology is not changing. Also, we are saying that the for every X, how much of Y can I produce given I use my resources fully and efficiently. So some assumptions that I want to sort of mention here is to be important to note is, number one is that we are making only two goods. Okay. Number two is level of technology is fixed. Okay. And number three that we are looking at is that, if you go back to this, number three, we said this, that uh, level of technology is, and the resources are fixed. Okay, so resources are fixed. We can't change the resources, so resources are limited or fixed. And these three assumptions are important when you're making a curve. So whenever we're making a curve, it tells us basically the maximum amount of two goods that I can make, not more than two goods, where we assume level of technology is fixed and resources are fixed. And the definition is saying for every X or for every capital good, let's say if I say I'm making X1 capital good, how much of maximum Y can I make is Y1. For every, for example, X2, the maximum that I can make of Y will be Y2. And similarly, for every X3, the maximum I can make would be Y3. Given I'm using my resources fully and efficiently. Okay, so the maximum that I can make is basically this. Is that fine, guys? Does that make sense? Is there any question before we move on?
No, sir.
No? Okay, great. So then comes the next idea, okay, that we are saying, guys, that when an economy, and this is not individual, by the way, PPC is not for individuals, PPC is not for firms, PPC is only for the economy. When an economy is producing its resources fully and efficiently, then they will be on the curve, okay? So when you are on the curve, basically, because all points, I should write this out, all points all points on the PPC are where resources are fully and efficiently used. Okay, so if you are on the PPC, this means you're utilizing your resources fully and efficiently. But if you're not in the PPC, let's say if I tell you guys this, that you are not on the PPC, but you are like at point, for example, X here, okay, some point, or you are looking at point Y here, then basically we are moving away from resources fully and efficiently used. Let's talk about this point Y, okay? Now I want to zoom this, and I should not be calling this point X and Y. I'm so sorry, guys, because X and Y are also the variables. So you'll be like, why is this thing interchanging? So let's call it basically F and G, okay? So what about point G, if you look at it? So if I look at point G, guys, at point G, basically, when I am at point G, am I utilizing my resources fully and efficiently? Anyone?
No, sir.
No,
Jace was wastage.
you're
Wastage,
underproducing.
you underproducing or you're not producing at it at your maximum? You're
Not
not,
produced efficiently.
yeah,
Not
basically,
producing it.
can I say this, guys? Can I say this, that when I look at G, I'm making X1, right? But I'm making Y3 when I can make Y2, Y1 as well. Isn't that true? Similarly, if I'm making Y3 at point G, the maximum I can produce is X3. So which means, guys, any points, any point under the PPC is where we are not utilizing resources fully and efficiently. Because, guys, if we were producing at full capacity, then I could have gotten X3 for Y3 or X1 for Y1. In fact, I'm only getting Y3 X1. For every X, I could get more of Y if I had done a better job. And for every Y, I could have gotten more of X if I had done a better job. But I did not do a better job because I decided to be producing at G X1 Y3 at point G, where basically our explanation is this, that either there is unemployment happening or there is what we call inefficiency happening. Are you all with me? Does that make sense? Either there's unemployment or inefficiency, because both of these things can result in us to not do well. If you don't use your resources fully, which means there is unemployment happening, this means that if you're not using your resources fully, then you are basically not able to produce the maximum. Okay, the maximum could be point D. For every y3, I can get maximum D of, or maximum could be B as well. So the first thing is this, that we are unable to achieve maximum because of the fact that we are not using our resources fully. And even if we use our resources fully, but what if you are not using it efficiently? That's also a problem, which means again you will be not on your PPC. Does that make sense? Is there any question before we move on? Are we good
Sir,
to
but
move on?
isn't it unrealistic to for an economy to use all their resources fully and efficiently?
I mean, is it unrealistic? Yeah, but can I ask you something? Who's this? Amal, right?
No, it's Alina.
Alina, एक सवाल है ये कि shouldn't the economy use its resources fully and efficiently given they are scarce?
Um, no,
No. Why?
because they're scarce and they're gonna run out. No, wait, actually they should, because
They
if they use
should,
it
right? So if
efficiently,
there's a
yeah,
piece of land that is not being used, and let's say the country is still having issues of schools, shouldn't schools be allowed to build there?
they should.
Yeah, so basically the idea goes this, that if you have a possibility of producing and using resources, why not use them? I mean, yes, you can
Yeah.
say in real life, isn't that too much to strive for, to use all your resources fully and efficiently? And my answer is yes, it's too much of a goal, it's too much pressure to be like using your resources fully and efficiently. But we should strive to achieve maximum possible. And if we do so, then we will be on the curve. But what
Okay.
about the points which is, did I answer your question,
Yes, sir, you did.
Nina? Yeah. The next thing I want to look at is basically, fine, we are looking at our resources fully and efficiently, but what about the points beyond the curve? Use another color. What about the points?
Sir,
Yeah,
Amal here. I need to ask that are we required to like choose the best available option in this case?
like, what do you mean by this?
Like the maximum output option.
Maximum is, ये सारे maximum है. आपकी ख्वाहिशात पे depend करता है. It's a country's preference to be whatever they may want to make. If I'm like a, a country that is very keen to make capital goods, I will probably be at D or E, right? But then I will be not making consumer goods. Versus I could be, so all these points are the maximum possible that we can make utilizing our resources fully and efficiently. So that's one thing. Okay. The second thing we want to say is this, that if you're not on the PPC, then of course you're not producing maximum possible. Any point inside is where you are probably underutilizing your resources, or you're suffering from some kind of uh, inefficiency. Make sense? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. What about point F, which is points beyond the PPC? We say point beyond the PPC are basically those points that are what you call unattainable.
Sir,
Okay. Yes.
can wastage be a part of unemployment and inefficiency?
Yeah. Wastage is definitely, well, wastage is inefficiency, right? वैसे अगर मैं आपको क्लास पढ़ा रहा हूँ और मैं आपको इस क्लास से अच्छी क्लास पढ़ा सकता हूँ, लेकिन मैं नहीं पढ़ा रहा हूँ for some reason, which by the way I'm thinking right now because I'm super sleepy. So I'm feeling a bit inefficient. But let's say if I am doing something like that, then I'm basically wasting resources. Isn't that true? Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So don't quote me. Sir Alianza was saying that he was not doing a good job, but basically that would be an unattainable. That would be inefficiency happening. So wastages are inefficiency basically for us. We could have done a better job, but we did not. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So all points beyond the PPC we say are unattainable. Now, the reason why we call them unattainable is basically like if you look at the curve, if you look at the PPC, right? So if all points like are, let's say, let's say this is good X and Y, okay? So for example, if I am making 30 of this and I'm making 20 of X, then can I also, for every 20, can I get, let's say, 50? Let's call this point G. Can I get 50 of Y? And the answer is no, I can't, because the maximum I can get is this point B, which is 30 of, for every 20 of X, I can get 30 of Y, I can't get 50. And the reason why I can't get 50 is because this point is currently unattainable due to our limited resources and the given level of technology. So guys, if tomorrow technology changes, technology improves, or if tomorrow the resources that are limited, they are no longer limited, you may go beyond your curve, you may go to point G, okay? But right now you are basically um, stuck at point B, but you could have gone more, you could reach higher. Make sense? But with your given resources and given level of technology, the maximum you can get is B. Make sense? So any point beyond the curve, we say, is kind of like unattainable. And the idea goes this, that this is why when you look at points beyond the PPC, it is telling us basically the very important concept of scarcity. You know, let me just erase this. It is telling us the concept of scarcity because of scarcity, we are kind of restricted. So another name for PPC is production possibility boundary or frontier, because you can't cross this with your limited resources and given technology, you can't cross this. So G kind of is telling us scarcity. Yes, Imra, exactly what I'm saying. G is telling us scarcity because of the fact that scarcity means that resources are limited. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions? Do we have any questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so today, so some of the things that we learned right now is number one, that when we draw a PPC, it shows us only two goods. Okay, we also said this, the PPC shows us the maximum output that we can make of two goods with our level of technology being fixed, and number two, our resources being fixed. So that PPC is drawn with these three assumptions, that we're making only two goods, economy is making only two goods, which is kind of unrealistic. Number two, that the level of technology is also fixed, which means it's not increasing. And number three is resources are also fixed. Then we said this, that all resources, all points on the PPC is showing us the maximum we can make, but any point under the PPC is showing us unemployment or inefficiency. But all points beyond the PPC is showing us basically desirable, kind of like a combination of two goods, but unattainable because of our limited resources and given level of technology. So in a way, points beyond the PPC is showing us scarcity, points under the PPC showing us unemployment and inefficiency, and points, let me write this, points on the curve are showing us, anyone, what are points on the curve showing us?
Maximum utilization of resources.
Yeah, I can say, can I
Which
say
ones?
full employment? Can I say full employment and efficiency? Yeah, do you all agree? What isn't an efficient allocation, as Zohan is saying, what isn't an efficient allocation of resources is basically any point under the curve will be what we call not an efficient allocation of resources. Any points on the curve is full efficiency of resources or full employment. Make sense, guys? Are we good? Any questions? Are we good to move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so guys, this is it for today. So today we have done the basic of the production possibility curve. I'm going to build upon it tomorrow to talk about the concept of the slope of PPC. We'll calculate some slopes, we'll find out the shapes, and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm done for today. I'm going to stop our recording so that we can finish our class. Okay, any questions that I can take before